The perfect day that never was. The morning sun streamed through the stained glass windows of St. Catherine's Cathedral, painting rainbow patterns across the white marble floor. Sophia Martinez stood before the full-length mirror, her reflection almost unrecognizable in the custom-made wedding gown that had cost more than her father's annual salary. The dress was a masterpiece of silk and lace, each pearl hand-sewn, each detail perfected over months of fittings. "You look like a princess," her mother whispered, tears already streaming down her face as she adjusted the cathedral-length veil. But Sophia barely heard her. Her hands trembled as she clutched the bouquet of white roses and peonies, her heart hammering so loudly she wondered if everyone in the room could hear it. In 2 hours, she would become Mrs. Damian Blackwood, wife to one of the youngest billionaires in the country, partner to the man who had swept into her ordinary life like a storm and promised her the world. She had met Damian 18 months ago at a charity gala where she was working as an event coordinator. He had spilled champagne on her dress, apologized with a smile that could melt glaciers, and spent the rest of the evening making her laugh until her cheeks hurt. 3 months later, he proposed on a yacht under the stars, with a diamond so large she was afraid to wear it in public. "Are you nervous?" her younger sister Maria asked, squeezing her hand. Terrified, Sophia admitted with a shaky laugh. "What if I trip walking down the aisle? What if I forget my vows?" "You won't," Maria assured her. "This is your fairy tale, sophomore. You deserve every bit of happiness coming your way." If only she had known how quickly fairy tales could turn into nightmares. The first sign of trouble. The cathedral was packed with over 300 guests, a who's who of business moguls, celebrities, and society elite. Sophia's own friends and family clustered nervously in their assigned pews, overwhelmed by the perfect life that wasn't. "My name is Elena Cross, and for 12 years, I painted masterpieces that made other people famous. Tonight, I stood in my own gallery, surrounded by my art, and nobody knew it belonged to me." The gallery walls gleamed white under expensive lighting. Well-dressed people sipped champagne and admired the portraits hanging in gold frames. They whispered about the talented artist Marcus Cross, my husband. What they didn't know was that every brushstroke, every color choice, every emotion captured on canvas came from my hands, not his. Marcus stood in the center of the room, tall and handsome in his tailored suit. His smile was bright as he shook hands with collectors and critics. He spoke about his artistic vision, his creative process, his inspiration. I watched from the corner, wearing a simple black dress, holding a glass of wine I hadn't touched. "Your husband is truly gifted," a woman in pearls told me. She didn't wait for my response before walking away. I smiled. That smile had become my mask over the years. The woman in red. That's when I saw her. Vivian Laurent, my assistant for the past 3 years. She wore a red dress that hugged her body like a second skin. Her dark hair fell in perfect waves down her back. She moved through the crowd with confidence, stopping beside Marcus. He touched her lower back. Just briefly. Just enough. Most people wouldn't notice. But I had been watching for months. I saw the way they leaned toward each other. I heard their laughter that lasted too long. I noticed how Vivian always had reasons to stay late at the gallery when Marcus was there. "Elena, darling," Marcus called out, waving me over. I walked slowly, my heels clicking on the marble floor. "Come meet Mr. Davidson. He wants to buy the portrait of the woman with blue eyes." Mr. Davidson was a wealthy collector from New York. He shook my hand without really looking at me. Your husband is a genius, Mrs. Cross. That portrait speaks to the soul." "Thank you," I said quietly. "I'm glad you see what I put into it." Marcus laughed. "She means what I put into it inspires her too. Elena supports my work beautifully." Mr. Davidson nodded and turned back to Marcus. I had disappeared again. I was used to it. Vivian touched Marcus's arm. "Darling, the critics from Art World magazine just arrived. You should greet them." "Darling." She called him darling in front of everyone, in front of me. And nobody found it strange. I excused myself and walked toward my private studio at the back of the gallery. My hands were shaking, but not from weakness. From rage I had swallowed for too long. The discovery. My studio was the only place that felt like home. Paint-stained floors, canvases stacked against walls, the smell of turpentine and oil paints. This is where I created the art that Marcus claimed as his own. I sat at my desk to catch my breath. That's when I saw it. A folder left carelessly open on the side table. Inside were documents, contracts, gallery agreements. I picked them up, curious. The first page made my blood run cold. It was a contract between Marcus and Vivian. They were opening a new gallery together in Paris. The documents showed they had been planning this for 8 months. They were taking my collector list, my contacts, my reputation built over 12 years. But worse was coming. The next papers showed sales records. For years, Marcus had been selling my paintings under his name to private collectors. The amounts were staggering. Millions of dollars. Money I never saw. Money deposited into accounts I didn't know existed. My hand stopped shaking. A strange calm settled over me. The last document was an email printed out. From Vivian to Marcus. Once we move to Paris, we can leave Elena behind. She's too weak to fight back. Besides, nobody knows she's the real artist. You've built that reputation perfectly. In the art world, you are the genius. She's just the mouse in the background. We'll take everything and start fresh. I can't wait to be with you openly, my love. Marcus's response was short, she'll never see it coming. Elena trusts everyone. It's almost too easy. The mouse that roared. I sat there for a long time, reading and rereading those documents. 12 years of my life. 12 years of painting in shadows while Marcus stood in spotlights. 12 years of being called the supportive wife while my soul poured onto canvases that enriched him. Something inside me didn't break. It transformed. I carefully photographed every document with my phone. Then I placed them exactly as I found them. I stood up, checked my face in the mirror, and walked back to the gallery party. The celebration continued. Marcus told stories to admirers. Vivian laughed at his jokes, touching his shoulder, his arm, his hand. Nobody noticed the quiet woman in black moving through the crowd. I approached them with a soft smile. Marcus, Vivian, the party is wonderful. Marcus kissed my cheek. Thank you, darling. We make a good team, don't we? The best, I said, looking directly at Vivian. She smirked slightly, thinking I was too blind to see the truth. I was thinking, I continued, I should paint something new. Something different. A series of portraits perhaps. Raw, honest, showing people's true nature. Marcus barely listened. That's nice, dear. Whatever keeps you busy. Vivian smiled sweetly. What a lovely idea, Elena. I'm sure whatever you paint will be adequate. Adequate. My art that sold for millions was adequate. Thank you, Vivian, I said. I'll start tomorrow. In fact, I think this series will be my masterpiece. Something the art world will never forget. The first stroke. That night, Marcus came home late. He said he was closing the gallery and doing paperwork. I knew he was with Vivian. I knew, and I said nothing. Instead, I went to my home studio, a spare bedroom. Marcus are the genius. She's just the mouse in the background. We'll take everything and start fresh. I can't wait to be with you openly, my love. Marcus's response was short, she'll never see it coming. Elena trusts everyone. It's almost too easy. The mouse that roared. I sat there for a long time, reading and rereading those documents. 12 years of my life. 12 years of painting in shadows while Marcus stood in spotlights. 12 years of being called the supportive wife while my soul poured onto canvases that enriched him. Something inside me didn't break. It transformed. I carefully photographed every document with my phone. Then I placed them exactly as I found them. I stood up, checked my face in the mirror, and walked back to the gallery party. The celebration continued. Marcus told stories to admirers. Vivian laughed at his jokes, touching his shoulder, his arm, his hand. Nobody noticed the quiet woman in black moving through the crowd. I approached them with a soft smile. Marcus, Vivian, the party is wonderful. Marcus kissed my cheek. Thank you, darling. We make a good team, don't we? The best, I said, looking directly at Vivian. She smirked slightly, thinking I was too blind to see the truth. I was thinking, I continued, I should paint something new. Something different. A series of portraits perhaps. Raw, honest, showing people's true nature. Marcus barely listened. That's nice, dear. Whatever keeps you busy. Vivian smiled sweetly. What a lovely idea, Elena. I'm sure whatever you paint will be adequate. Adequate. My art that sold for millions was adequate. Thank you, Vivian, I said. I'll start tomorrow. In fact, I think this series will be my masterpiece. Something the art world will never forget. The first stroke. That night, Marcus came home late. He said he was closing the gallery and doing paperwork. I knew he was with Vivian. I knew, and I said nothing. Instead, I went to my home studio, a spare bedroom Marcus never entered. I pulled out a massive canvas, 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide. I mixed my paints with steady hands. I would paint the truth. But not in ways they would expect. Over the next weeks, I played the role perfectly. The quiet, supportive wife. The helpful assistant manager who smiled at Vivian's orders. The shadow behind Marcus's success. But every night, I painted. I documented. I planned. I hired a private investigator named James Reed. Within 2 weeks, he brought me everything. Photos of Marcus and Vivian in hotel rooms. Recordings of their conversations planning to abandon me. Financial records showing 12 years of stolen money. Emails to galleries in Paris where they planned to start their new life together. Mrs. Cross, James said, handing me the thick folder, I've been in this business 20 years. I've seen betrayal before. But this level of calculation, they didn't just steal your money. They're trying to steal your entire identity. I know, I said calmly. And that's exactly why I'm going to take it all back. The mask I wore. At the gallery, Marcus grew more confident. He announced he was planning a major exhibition in 3 months. The biggest show of my career, he told the press. A collection that will define my legacy. He assumed I would paint it, of course. That's how it always worked. I painted in silence, he claimed the glory. Elena, he said one evening, I need 12 new portraits for the exhibition. Large scale, emotional, powerful. Can you have them ready? Of course, I said. What's the theme? Truth, he said, not seeing the irony. I want to show the truth behind beautiful faces. The darkness people hide. Can you do that? I smiled. Marcus, that's exactly what I've been planning. I've already started. You'll have 12 portraits that show the absolute truth. I promise. He patted my head like I was a child. Good girl. This exhibition will make me, he caught himself, make us, financially secure for life. Vivian was there, lounging on the gallery sofa like she owned it. I'm sure Elena will do her best work, she said with false sweetness. After all, this is probably her last chance to contribute something meaningful. They laughed together. They thought I didn't understand the joke. I understood everything. The silent preparation. I worked day and night. In public, I painted what they expected. Safe, beautiful portraits for the upcoming exhibition. Marcus and Vivian would check on me sometimes, nodding with approval at the canvases they saw. But those weren't the real paintings. In my home studio, I created my true masterpieces. 12 portraits, each one larger than life. I painted Marcus and Vivian in ways that revealed their souls. Not ugly or monstrous, but honest. Devastatingly honest. I painted Marcus surrounded by paintings he didn't create, his hands empty of brushes, his eyes hungry for glory that wasn't his. I painted Vivian as a beautiful mask with nothing behind it, her smile perfect but her eyes calculating and cold. I included details only they would recognize. The hotel room where they met. The jewelry Marcus bought her with money from my paintings. The contracts for the Paris gallery hidden in her red handbag. Each portrait was a confession they didn't know they were making. But I didn't stop there. I embedded evidence within the paintings themselves. Using techniques I'd developed over years, I wove documents into the texture of the paint. Bank statements became part of the background. Email printouts formed shadows and highlights. To the casual viewer, they were just stunning portraits. To anyone who looked closely, they were proof. The loyal friend. Sophie Chen was the only person who knew my secret. She had been my friend since art school, before Marcus, before everything. She visited my home studio one night and saw what I was creating. "Elena," she whispered, staring at the portraits, they're devastating. And brilliant. This is your best work ever." "Thank you," I said. "Marcus is planning an exhibition in 3 months. He thinks I'm painting what he asked for." Sophie looked at me with concern. "What are you planning?" "The truth," I said simply. "For 12 years, I've been invisible. For 12 years, they've stolen my art, my money, my identity. On opening night, the world will see everything. Not through words or explanations. Through art. The one language I speak fluently." "He'll destroy you," Sophie said. "Marcus has powerful friends." "No," I corrected her. "I'm going to destroy the lies." "There's a difference." Sophie was quiet for a moment. Then she hugged me. "What do you need me to do?" "The countdown begins." The exhibition date was set. Invitations went to every major collector, critic, and journalist in the art world. Marcus spared no expense. This was meant to be his crowning achievement. "Darling," Vivian said to Marcus at the gallery one afternoon, loud enough for me to hear, "after this exhibition, we should celebrate. Maybe take that trip to Paris earlier than planned?" Marcus glanced at me nervously, but I was arranging flowers, apparently not listening. "Soon," he told her quietly. "Very soon." I continued arranging flowers. White lilies. People bring them to funerals. 2 months before the exhibition, Marcus's behavior changed. He became nervous, checking on my progress constantly. "Are the portraits ready? Can I see them? We need to start promoting." "They're almost done," I told him. "Trust me, Marcus. These paintings will show everyone exactly who you are." He smiled with relief, completely missing the double meaning. Vivian was bolder. She'd started coming to our house, treating it like her future home. She'd rearrange furniture, pick out new decorations, even sleep in the guest room after late work sessions. One morning, I brought her coffee in bed. She looked surprised. "You're very kind, Elena," she said, taking the cup. "Most women would be jealous of how much time I spend with their husbands." "Would they?" I asked innocently. "I trust Marcus completely. And I trust that everything happens exactly as it should." She studied my face, looking for sarcasm or anger. She saw nothing but calm acceptance. It made her uncomfortable. "Good." The final month. For weeks before the exhibition, I finished the 12 portraits. They were the best work of my life. I knew it. Anyone who understood art would know it. I carefully loaded them into a private storage unit Sophie had rented under her name. Then I took the safe, acceptable portraits I'd painted as decoys and put them in my gallery studio. Marcus and Vivian inspected them. The portraits showed elegant people in elegant settings. Beautiful but empty. Commercial but forgettable. "They're perfect," Marcus said, though he sounded slightly disappointed. "Not your most exciting work, but they'll sell well." "I thought you'd like them," I said. What Marcus didn't know was that I had also contacted every person on his invitation list privately. Art critics I'd met over the years. Collectors who had bought Marcus's work. Journalists who covered the art world. My message was simple and mysterious: the exhibition on November 15th will reveal the truth about the Cross Gallery. What you see will change everything you know about art and deception. Come prepared to witness history. The messages created buzz. Speculation filled art world gossip. What was Marcus Cross planning? What truth would be revealed? Marcus was thrilled by the attention, thinking his promotion worked perfectly. He had no idea I had set the stage. The night before, 24 hours before the exhibition, I told Marcus I needed to prepare the gallery alone. "It's an artist thing," I said. "I want to set up the lighting perfectly, make sure every detail is right." He kissed my forehead. "Of course, darling. Take your time. I'm meeting with potential buyers anyway." Meeting with Vivian, he meant. But I didn't care anymore. Sophie arrived at the gallery at midnight with a rental truck. We carefully loaded my real portraits and brought them inside. One by one, we removed the safe, boring paintings and replaced them with the truth. The 12 massive canvases filled the gallery. Under the special lighting I'd installed, they were breathtaking. Powerful. Devastating. "Elena," Sophie breathed, "this is going to explode." "I know," I said. "That's exactly the point." We worked until dawn, positioning each portrait perfectly, setting up special lighting that would reveal the embedded evidence at certain angles. I had learned this technique from studying old masters. They too had hidden messages in their work, waiting for the right eyes to see them. As the sun rose, I stood in the center of my gallery, surrounded by my truth, and I felt something I hadn't felt in 12 years. Power. Tomorrow, the masks would fall. Tomorrow, the invisible woman would become unforgettable. Tomorrow, Marcus Cross and Vivian Laurent would face the portraits that would destroy them. And I would finally sign my own name to my masterpieces. Part 2, The Exhibition of Truth, 2000 Words. The Morning of Reckoning. I woke up at dawn on exhibition day, November 15th. Marcus was still asleep beside me, snoring softly, completely unaware that in 12 hours, his entire world would collapse. I made breakfast like I did every morning. Scrambled eggs, toast, fresh coffee. The routine was comforting. Everything looked normal. Everything felt different. Marcus came downstairs wearing his favorite suit, deep blue with a silver tie. He looked at himself in the hallway mirror, practicing his smile. The smile he used for collectors and critics. The smile that sold my paintings. "Big day," he said, pouring coffee. "I can feel it, Elena. This exhibition is going to change everything." "Yes," I agreed quietly. "Everything is going to change." He kissed my cheek and headed to the gallery early. He wanted to do final checks, to make sure his name was spelled correctly on all the plaques, to rehearse his speech about his artistic journey. I waited an hour, then called Sophie. "It's time." The calm before the storm. By noon, the gallery was a hive of activity. Catering staff set up champagne stations. Photographers tested their equipment. Marcus directed everything like a general commanding troops. Vivian arrived wearing a stunning gold dress. She moved through the space like she owned it, which she believed she soon would. She kissed Marcus on the lips when she thought no one was watching. Several people saw. They always saw. I arrived at 3 o'clock, wearing a white dress. White for truth, for new beginnings, for exposure. My hair was pulled back simply. No jewelry except my wedding ring, which I would remove tonight. "Elena," Marcus called out, "come see how beautiful everything looks." I walked through the gallery. My portraits hung on the walls, covered with black silk cloths. This was Marcus's dramatic touch. At 8 o'clock, he would unveil them one by one, building suspense. He had no idea what was hiding under those cloths. "Beautiful," I said. "Are you nervous?" "Excited," he corrected. "Tonight, I claim my place among the great artists." Vivian laughed, linking her arm through his. "Tonight, we both get what we deserve." "Yes," I said, looking directly at her. "We all get exactly what we deserve." The guests arrive. The exhibition opened at 7. By 7:30, the gallery was packed. Every major figure in the art world had come. Critics from prestigious magazines. Collectors who spent millions. Museum curators. Journalists with cameras and recording devices. Sophie arrived, wearing all black like she was attending a funeral. She caught my eye and nodded. Everything was ready. I saw James Reed, my private investigator, near the back. He blended in perfectly, just another art lover. But I knew he had copies of every document, every photo, every piece of evidence. If anyone questioned the truth tonight, he would provide proof. Marcus stood on a small platform, microphone in hand. The silk-covered portraits loomed behind him like secrets waiting to be told. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice boomed through the gallery, "thank you for joining us tonight. For 12 years, I have poured my soul onto canvas, trying to capture the truth of the human condition. Tonight, I present my masterwork. 12 portraits that reveal what lies beneath the surface. The masks we wear. The secrets we keep. The truth we hide." The irony was so perfect, I almost laughed. "Each portrait tells a story," Marcus continued. "Each one exposes something raw and real. I call this collection, The Naked Soul." People applauded. Cameras flashed. Vivian gazed at Marcus with adoring eyes. "Before we unveil the portraits," Marcus said, "I want to thank my wife, Elena. Her support has been invaluable." "Where are you, darling?" A spotlight found me. Everyone turned. I smiled and waved, the invisible woman being acknowledged for a brief moment before disappearing again. But not for long. The first unveiling. Marcus pulled the silk from the first portrait with a dramatic flourish. The audience gasped. The portrait showed a man in a tailored suit, standing in an art gallery. But his hands were empty. Around him floated paintings, but he held no brushes, no palette. His face was handsome but hollow. And if you looked closely at the background, really closely, you could see tiny words woven into the paint texture. One critic pulled out glasses and stepped closer. His eyes widened as he read the embedded text. Bank account numbers. Transaction records. Sales of artwork under Marcus Cross's name with dates going back 12 years. "This is..." The critic whispered, "This is extraordinary. The technique, the symbolism, the hidden layers." Marcus smiled, thinking the praise was for him. He didn't realize the critic was reading the evidence of his theft. The second portrait was unveiled. A woman in a red dress, beautiful but cold. Vivian's face was unmistakable. And woven into the fabric of her painted dress were emails. Their emails. Planning the Paris gallery. Planning to leave me behind. "Marcus," Vivian whispered urgently, tugging his sleeve. "Those paintings, they're not brilliant, aren't they?" Marcus interrupted, still oblivious. "The emotion, the depth. The truth reveals itself." One by one, the portraits were unveiled. Each one showed Marcus or Vivian or both of them together. Each one was breathtakingly beautiful and devastatingly honest. Portrait 3 showed them together in a hotel room, the room number visible on a door in the background. A collector cross-referenced it with rumors he'd heard and pulled out his phone, searching. Portrait 4 embedded contract signatures, Marcus's forgery of my name on documents that transferred my rights to him. Portrait 5 showed financial statements, millions of dollars from Marcus Cross original paintings deposited into secret accounts. By the sixth portrait, people were murmuring. Phones came out. Photos were taken not just of the art, but of the evidence within it. Journalists typed frantically. Critics examined the paintings with magnifying glasses, discovering layer after layer of truth. Ladies and gentlemen, a voice cut through the growing noise. My voice, amplified through the sound system. Everyone turned. I stood on the platform now, having taken the microphone while Marcus stared in confusion at his crumbling moment of glory. My name is Elena Cross, I said clearly, my voice steady and strong. And I am the artist who painted every work in this gallery. Every painting Marcus Cross has ever claimed. Every piece that built his reputation. For 12 years, I painted in shadows while he stood in light. Tonight, the shadows reveal everything. The declaration. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Marcus's face went from confusion to horror. As understanding crashed over him. Vivian had gone pale, her gold dress suddenly looking cheap under the harsh lights. These 12 portraits, I continued, tell the complete story of betrayal, theft, and deception. But they're not just accusations. They're proof. Every portrait contains embedded evidence. Financial records. Emails. Photographs. Contracts. All woven into the very fabric of the art. I gestured to the walls. Portrait 1 shows the bank accounts where Marcus deposited millions from selling my work. Portrait 2 contains emails between Marcus and Vivian Laurent, my assistant, planning to open a gallery in Paris using my collector contacts while leaving me with nothing. Sophie stepped forward, carrying a large folder. She handed it to the nearest critic, who opened it with shaking hands. These are the original documents, I explained. Bank statements showing 12 years of deposits. Bills of sale for paintings Marcus never created. Signed contracts transferring my legal rights through forged signatures. Hotel receipts. Private investigator reports. Everything you see in the portraits exists in physical and digital form. The critic looked up from the folder, his face grave. This is documentation of systematic fraud and artistic theft on a massive scale. Journalists pushed forward, cameras rolling. This wasn't just an art exhibition anymore. This was a scandal that would dominate headlines for months. The confrontation. Marcus finally found his voice. This is insane, he shouted. Elena, what are you doing? These paintings, yes, you helped, but I guided your hand. I taught you everything. You taught me? I laughed, and it felt good. Marcus, you can't draw a straight line with a ruler. You don't know the difference between oil and acrylic. You've never created anything except lies. You're my wife, he yelled, desperate now. How can you do this to me? How can I? My voice rose. How can you steal 12 years of my life? How can you sell my soul and keep the money? How can you plan to abandon me with your mistress while taking everything I built? Vivian tried to move toward the exit, but Sophie blocked her path. James Reed stood nearby, making sure neither of them could escape. The portraits speak for themselves, I said to the crowd. But if anyone doubts their authenticity, I invite you to examine them. Study the technique. Check the evidence. Interview the collectors who bought Marcus Cross originals. You'll find that I attended every delivery, I discussed technique with buyers, I answered questions about artistic choices. Because I created every piece. A museum curator stepped forward. Ms. Cross, I bought 3 of your husband's paintings over the years. I remember you. You explained the symbolism in each one, the color theory, the emotional intention. I thought you were just enthusiastic. I was the artist, I said simply. Talking about my own work. The industry responds. The head critic from Art World magazine, Robert Chen, examined each portrait carefully. He used a special light to reveal even more details I'd hidden. His face showed growing amazement and horror. "This is genius," he declared. "These paintings represent a technical achievement I've rarely seen. The layering, the embedded evidence that doesn't compromise the artistic integrity. Ms. Cross, this is master-level work." He turned to Marcus. "You claim to paint with a distinctive technique, a special method of layering you developed. Can you explain the process?" Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He literally couldn't answer because he didn't know. "Elena," Robert said gently, "can you explain the technique?" I smiled. "Of course. I use a modified Renaissance method of glazing, building up translucent layers of oil paint over a detailed underpainting. Each layer takes 3 days to dry properly. The embedded documents are incorporated during specific layers.